Hey, church family, thanks for joining us again for today's Daily Connection as we begin to look at another aspect of connecting with Christ's body. And as Christ's body, Peter, again, giving us some commands, some things to live by. So today we're going to be looking at 1 Peter chapter 4, and we're going to be in verse 9 today. And so verse 9 says, be hospitable to one another without complaining. Now, I think it's important to understand, and Brother Brent looked at this yesterday, that verse 9 comes in the context of verse 8, and that is that we should have constant love for one another. And I think when we look at love, a lot of times we immediately go to romantic love, right? That love for your spouse or for your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it may be. I think maybe next under that a lot of times is love for your family, and then maybe love for your friends. And when we think about love, it's probably a lot of times what we think about it. And I think also a great mistake is made when we associate only love with only feelings. Love, certainly there are feelings associated with love, but the reality is love is action, right? Love is a verb, and it's a sacrificial verb. It's a verb that requires sacrifice. And so I don't think there's any mistake here that Peter has verse 9 following verse 8. He commands them to love one another constantly, and then he comes to verse 9 and he says, hey, be hospitable to one another without complaining. So not just be hospitable, but be hospitable without complaining. I think context is important here. Peter is writing to the church, and at this time, the Christian church has been dispersed all over because of persecution. There are people who have been run out of their homes, they've been run out of their cities, they have nowhere to go, and so there are other believers who are in these areas who are having to welcome them into their houses. And surely that can be awkward and uncomfortable. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but there are times people come and stay. It's like, hey man, you're welcome to stay for a few days, but at some point I want you out of here, right? We value our privacy. We value our time with ourselves or with our own families. And so as Peter is writing this, he's kind of encouraging as well, saying, hey, look, I know that right now your space is being invaded. I know right now there are people who are wanting to come and stay in your house. And there was a lot of obligation at this time for people to allow people to stay in your house. Not a lot of hotels hanging out around here, right? I mean, people would come into the city square and spend the night at a stranger's house. That's a lot of times how they would find a place to stay. And so Peter is saying, hey, look, you need to be hospitable. You need to welcome these people into your home. And not only do you need to welcome them into your home, you need to do it without complaining, right? And what that does is that is real love, right? When you are willing to sacrifice some of the space in your home, and you're willing to do that without complaining, you're showing the love of Christ. You're showing love to someone who has done nothing to earn it, right? They don't have a place to stay, but they haven't done anything to earn your place to stay, right? They haven't done anything to earn your kindness. It's a good chance you don't even know them. They're a stranger, right? But Peter's saying, hey, even in that situation, let's be hospitable. Let's welcome them in. Let's show them the love of Christ. And let's do that without complaining. This is just another way for us to love one another constantly, right? So our author gives us a couple of questions kind of regarding hospitality. And the first one says, who would you characterize as highly hospitable? And why? Who is someone in your life who you look at as highly hospitable? And look, I'm not just talking about the person who throws a great dinner party, okay? I'm talking about who is someone who always welcomes others arms open wide. They welcome them into our church. They welcome them into their homes. Whatever happens, no matter what, they're not going to turn people away. They're always welcoming them. Who is that person in your life, and why do you what have they done for you to have the characterization of them as hospitable? And then the second question, how is God calling you to be more hospitable? Man, you may be an extrovert. You may be super hospitable. You may be an introvert and you just want to be alone, right? I don't know where you are, but how is God calling you to be more hospitable? Said another way, how is God calling you to love strangers, to love people who haven't earned your love, to love people who are different than you? How is God calling you to do that? I hope you'll take a moment to write those things down and set goals for yourself to truly love the way that Christ calls us to love. And as you do that, church family, I want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you.